context. Okay, so the assignment for this part would be to read Chapter 5 at home with Holistic Management, and look at the example on page 64 and complete the exercise 5.1, page 65, creating your holistic context. And it'll say holistic goal because that book was written quite a few years ago. But try to think of it in terms of a holistic context. I think it makes a lot more sense that way. Okay. I think we're going to save the questions for the end. So if you can bear with me, you can certainly type them in. Colette can keep track of those or write them down for yourself, but we'll save those for the very end, I think. Okay, so how do we evaluate these decisions that we've made? We have a holistic context, and then we're thinking about, well, how am I going to go about doing this or that, or should I take, this action, or should I take that action? And so we have 7 filtering questions, sometimes called the testing questions or the testing guidelines, and those are to help us really just consider all the possibilities and potential consequences of that action or that decision. It does supplement the other things that we always do anyway. Usually we're going to do some research, and oftentimes we may seek advice. Sometimes we just have a gut feeling about how something should be, but instead of just using those kind of basic, simple considerations, we're going to actually run them through these 7 questions. So hopefully will provide us a bigger picture or a bigger view of that decision or action that we are considering. So the 7 questions are, and we'll talk very briefly about each of them, and we're going to use the example of Craig in making a major decision in his life using all these questions. So it helps us to move in the direction of our holistic context. It helps us to meet the triple bottom line, those economic, those environment, and those social considerations that we must think about. Oops, okay. I think most of the slides on there. So there are 7 filters. They're cause and effect, the weak link test, and there's a weak link test for social, biological, and financial aspects. There's a marginal reaction test, what's going to give us the biggest bang for the buck in terms of time and money spent. The 4th is gross profit analysis, which is, you're going to learn a lot about that. I think that's in the session 3. Craig's going to be going in much more depth on the financial planning, and that's used to evaluate, compare enterprises. We're also going to look at energy, money, and the source and the use of that money. We're going to think about sustainability and how does it relate to our future resource base. Is this decision going to be sustainable? And society and culture is usually the last one that we do. And it's really kind of looking at everything that we've considered in all those questions above, and also our gut feeling, our intuition. Really, how do we feel about that decision now? Okay. So the situation that we've got here is that Craig is dissatisfied with his current job. He spends too much time in the office, and he really doesn't totally agree with all the programs and the things that are going on there. So he's feeling like he needs to make a change. So what is he going to do? So he thought about, for a long time, he thought about actually starting a goat business where he's going to manage vegetation on a for-hire basis. And so so what he has done is he's created kind of a matrix here where he has each of the tests, and then we're going to show kind of the results of that. We're not going to spend, again, a lot of time, just because you'll be doing some of that when you get deeper into the holistic financial planning. But the first question is, does this action address the root cause of the problem? So this is a question where it would apply, the question would apply if there is a problem that you're dealing with. And in Craig's case, yeah, there's kind of a problem that he's not very satisfied with his job and his life the way it is, and working that particular job. And so if you're not dealing with a problem, it doesn't apply, just skip it. It really forces you to clearly define what the problem is, because probably more often than not, we try to find a fix for a symptom without really truly understanding what the underlying problem is. And so it forces us to really ask the question, well, why is this, this thing happening? Why, what is causing that to happen? And to really get to what the true underlying problem is. So we focus on the root cause and not the symptom. And the weak link is the next filter. So every chain has a weak link, and so if you pull hard enough, it's going to break in one spot. And if you don't address the weak link, you will have wasted resources or, pretty much wasted resources and time. But once you've identified the weak link, you can commit your resources to addressing it. So in this test really applies and it can apply in 3 areas. It may not, it may not be a consideration in all 3 areas, but it could be a social weak link, it could be biological, it could be financial. Okay, there we go. Okay, so the social weak link, and that really what that's about is that is this action or decision that we're going to take, could it create some conflict or some bad feelings or some problems, in the social realm of things, relationships with our family, our neighbors, our coworkers, whatever it might be. The next, and so in this particular case is, there are some red flags there. Really, it's about raising red flags, see if there are any red flags there. Craig would be on the road for 4 to 5 months. How can he manage his relationship with Sulani if he's not home a lot of the time? And so it's not necessarily going to stop him from making that decision, but he needs to really think about what can I do to address the potential problems and really monitor it closely. In terms of the financial would be, where is the weak link in the chain of production? So here's, whoops, I think we're missing a slide there. Okay, well, I guess I will explain it before we do the poll, is that you could, actually, you know what, I think that we probably, without having that graphic there, I think it would be a little difficult to answer, but, well, let's go ahead and do it anyway. Sometimes you can have in your business a resource weak link, a financial weak link in the resource area, meaning that perhaps if you don't have enough land to grow your crops, or in my case, maybe I don't have, my pastures are in poor shape, I don't have enough grass to grow the cattle. That would be a weak link in the resource area. The product would be, maybe I have lots of grass, that's fine, but I don't have enough cattle. Or maybe I don't have enough money to buy the seed or to hire the labor that I need so that I can create more of this product. And the third part would be the marketing. Perhaps maybe I have lots of grass and I can grow really great beef cattle, but I don't know anything about marketing and I don't know how to sell them. And so, it really doesn't do much good to produce a lot if you can't market them. So those are kind of the 3 areas. So I apologize, I'm not sure where the slide went, but if we want to do this poll and think about your own situation in your own business, do you think you have a resource weak link? In other words, you're lacking the raw materials. Do you think you can't produce enough product? Or your marketing needs some work? So go ahead and answer that, or you don't know.
So you can go ahead and click on the answer that is right for you. We have about 1/3 of our participants have voted, so I'll give it a couple more seconds so you can identify if it be your resource, your product, your marketing, or you don't know. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and share the results. So 80% of the folks that answered the question said that they feel their weak link is their product, and 20% don't know.
Okay, very good. And there's no right answer here. It depends on your situation. And that's one of the things that in the holistic financial planning is you will learn how to determine where that weak link is. And then that's where you should, first off, put your resources and address that weak link, because, buying more cattle or planting more crops isn't going to do you any good if you can't sell them. So you really have to think about, where do I need to put my resources first? Oops, click again. Oh, okay, it got out of order there. So those are our chains here. And that's just what I just talked about. So your ability to convert sunlight into raw resources, or you lack the skills or the knowledge, those sort of things. Or product conversion, you may have raw resources but lack the capacity to convert them to a product. Or you might have a great product or service but have difficulty selling it or even collecting the money from it. So I apologize, those are out of order. Okay, so I'm going to go through this very quickly because I want to end here shortly. But there is a question that asks, which action provides the greatest return in terms of my holistic context for time and money spent? What's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck? I'm looking at two different things. I'm putting a certain amount of time and money into each. Which is going to give me the greatest return? And we use that to evaluate two or more decisions. So if you're only looking at one thing, you can't really use this because it's really just a comparison. And you need to evaluate both of those options. The other question, gross profit. When comparing the two enterprises, which of these enterprises contributes most to covering the overheads of the business? And so here, again, you're going to spend a lot of time in, I think, session 3, where you will compare enterprises and look at the variable expenses in each of those enterprises and look at what you need to put in it money-wise and what you're going to get out of it profit-wise, so that profit can help cover the overhead and leave you the money left over to do what the things you want to do and to reinvest into your business. Okay, energy, money, source, and use. And really that's asking, is the energy or money derived that's going to be used for this action or decision from the most appropriate source in terms of your holistic context? So it may be that use of fossil fuels might not fit in with your holistic context, especially your future resource base, or maybe borrowing or using credit cards might not be. But really it comes down to your own holistic context. And which way will that money or energy be used? Will it lead you toward your holistic context, or are there patterns of use that are going to be a problem? For instance, if you're borrowing money with compound interest, that could get you deeper and deeper into debt. Or if you're having to use a lot of fossil fuel and you have to continue to be using fossil fuels, you have to decide, is that going to be a problem or not? And again, when you're looking at building infrastructure, you may be investing in fencing and equipment, and some of those things may help you to earn, more, to develop more product, to create more profit later on. Is it a one-time investment? Like, for instance, the goats and the truck are going to be a one-time investment for Craig and Sulani. And then you look for what we call consumptive or addictive uses. In other words, things like hay or things you have to keep buying again and again and again and again. Those things you really have to consider. Are they in line with your holistic